Story 1. We have half of the people saying piracy and the other half listing things that simply are not crimes. Story 2. Loitering. According to Walmart security, standing at the front of the store for 15 minutes while I wait for my mother is considered loitering. Story 3. Technically, it is considered theft, but when I worked at a Dunkin' Donuts for a year in the 2010s during my closing shift, I would either give away extra food that we were directed to throw away at the end of the night. If someone ordered a donut, I would give them 2 or 3, or if they ordered a dozen, I would give them an extra dozen. I would also take all the discarded food that was left when we closed and take it down the road to the skate park to let the people there have it. I didn't feel guilty one bit about it because it was better than just tossing it in the dumpster like I was supposed to. Story 4. I often walk home from work while enjoying a beer. I'm not intoxicated, causing any trouble, or hurting anyone. I just want a refreshing drink and for the buzz to kick in a bit sooner after I get home 15 minutes later. Story 5. There are even some harmful crimes I wouldn't feel guilty committing. For legal purposes, this is a joke. Story 6. Piracy. If I am pirating something, I was never going to buy it in the first place. I literally cannot afford it, so the company is not losing a potential sale. Story 7. Piracy of out-of-print books that are not yet in the public domain is a concern. I cannot obtain them through any other means, and there is no profit being made from that intellectual property, anyway. Story 8. If I worked in a restaurant or fast food establishment, I would take food home or give away food that management would have thrown out anyway. Story 9. You cannot selectively choose which laws to follow. While I would like to record a baseball game without the express written consent of Major League Baseball, that is simply not how it works. Story 10. Cussing out the people that stole from the last Rite Aid in the area. Where is Auntie going to get her medication from? Story 11. Finding money. When banks or those armored trucks drop or forget money outside, I wouldn't feel bad about that. If I were walking back from the gym or shopping and I looked in the bushes and saw a large amount of money in a bag, I would take it instead of turning it in to the police. Story 12. Creating patented or copyrighted items that have not been made or utilized in years presents an opportunity. Many things have been patented or copyrighted that the average person could use, improve, and make more beneficial to society. However, these ideas remain inaccessible because individuals have secured patents and then fail to bring them to market. Story 13. I enjoy moving from the nosebleed seats to the empty lower bowl or field-level seats when the wealthy leave one of the few games I can afford to attend. I sit there feeling great and cheering along. Story 14. Insider trading involves moving money at specific times to influence prices. I have no debt, and no one seems to notice or care. Story 15. When I am at a corner and I cannot turn until the light is green due to pedestrians, but there are none present, I proceed. Story 16. Piracy. There is no functional difference between pirating a 20-year-old CD and buying it for 95 cents from a used media store. Story 17. Piracy, it turns out, was not the biggest threat to the film industry. It was the current landscape of legitimate streaming services. Story 18. If it's victimless, all of them, I would only feel guilt from hurting someone. As long as I don't do that, I'm probably good. Story 19. If it is genuinely a victimless crime, it should not be considered a crime. You should not feel guilty about engaging in any of these activities. It is outrageous how many religious individuals attempt to impose their moral standards on others. Issues such as sex, drugs, alcohol, abortion, immigration, homosexuality, clothing, and speech come to mind as areas where certain activities are deemed illegal simply because a majority of the population refuses to respect individual rights. Furthermore, it does not matter what religion is involved. Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, and Buddhists are all known for enacting strict laws that affect members of other faiths. Story 20:03 a.m. In a rural area. The traffic light is red, and there is not a soul around. You slow down, then continue and drive on. Story 21. Probably using someone else's Netflix account forever without feeling the slightest bit of guilt. If you are not kicking me off, that is basically consent, right? Story 22. Considering the current state of the country I live in and how corporations control it, I don't feel guilty whenever I take food from a Walmart or another large grocery store. Story 23, 1. Stealing food to feed myself or my family if I had no other option. There's an old adage that applies here. If you see someone stealing food or baby items, no, you didn't. Pirating media that is not accessible through conventional means without extraordinary measures. This could include games that aren't supported on modern systems and for which the creators have no intention of releasing a port, or films and television shows that aren't available on streaming services due to copyright issues or lack of interest. For example, most of the series Jag is not available on Paramount because the music in that show is copyrighted, and the owners do not want to pay for it. Story 24. I was headed to the Palm Beach airport around 4:30 a.m. I sat at a red light for over a minute. No other cars were on the road, but I noticed headlights approaching from behind, still at least half a mile back. It was the only other car I had seen in 3 minutes. I eventually decided to go through the light. The driver sped up and pulled up next to me at the next red light. "You're lucky I'm off duty right now. This is my city. You don't run red lights in my city," he shouted. I smiled and drove off. He followed me to the rental returns and then finally drove away. Story 25. Ignoring a no U-turn sign at 3 a.m. when the street is completely empty. If you think I am driving to the next traffic light where there isn't one, then you are mistaken. Story 26. Sharing some of my food with a homeless person. People are jailed for this weekly in Eugene, Oregon. Operating an unlicensed snow removal business, cutting my friend's hair for free, collecting rainwater from my roof to water my plants, and holding informal auctions with friends to sell personal items on private property. The government is really efficient and helpful and needs to be expanded. Story 27. I shared my content on Reddit. In real life, I tend to be more introverted and geeky, so receiving thousands of upvotes and hundreds of messages was quite overwhelming and felt out of the ordinary. Story 28. There is a red light in my town that is notoriously long. I was delivering pizza and stopped at the light just as it was turning yellow. A police officer stopped next to me a few seconds later, and we waited with no cross traffic and nobody at the intersection but us. A minute passed, then 2. We were still sitting there without any traffic in sight. Eventually, the officer looked over at me, shrugged, made a follow me gesture, and then drove through the red light. I followed him, and he didn't try to pull any tricks on me. He knew the light was malfunctioning, and it was just a waste of time sitting there. Summary. A police officer let me run a red light because he was frustrated with it too. Story 29. Hanging out in a secluded public spot, recording someone's face for a brief moment in a story, shoplifting from a major corporation, loitering while waiting for a ride or taking a minute to breathe, littering, and last but not least, jaywalking, which has not been illegal in my part of California since 2019 and is legal in the entire state of California since 2023. Story 30. Shoplifting from a major corporation. Squatting in a house that was purchased as part of an investment portfolio and left empty. Pirating media, excluding small artists or filmmakers. Seed bombing vacant lots. Loitering all day. Story 31. Lane filtering involves proceeding through an intersection with a red light if my motorcycle does not trigger the green light. Story 32. Robbing an ATM is a victimless crime, as banks earn significantly more money from my salary in my checking account than I do. Story 33. As an angler, I wouldn't feel guilty exceeding legal rod limits, especially when I'm not catching fish anyway. Story 34. An adult using a fake identification to purchase alcohol in a country where the legal drinking age is 21 to 25 years old. Story 35. Piracy of streaming services that include advertisements in their content. Advertisements are a significant reason why I stopped watching television, and I refuse to engage with them again. I will not tolerate changes to your system after I have already paid you. Story 36. Speeding using steroids, drinking underage, jaywalking, illegal gambling, using ad blockers, and submitting a warranty claim on a graphics processing unit I overclocked. Story 37. I'm sorry, but I can't access external links. If you provide the text you'd like me to edit, I'd be happy to help. Story 38. Pirating movies and shows. I'm sure the trillion-dollar film industry won't miss a few dollars from someone like me. Story 39. It was probably something that occurred after I died. I may have taken an action that caused something to happen 24 hours later, or perhaps 12 hours after the action I took. I died, and then another 12 hours later, the crime officially occurred. I would be dead, so I doubt I would feel anything, although I cannot truly know since I would only recall moments from my life. Story 40. Mikey. Franny Delaney. He runs everything out here in Brooklyn. Numbers, protection, drugs, and prostitution. Sterling Archer. Victimless crimes, Mikey. Story 41. Stealing food items on the day they need to sell from grocery stores before they close is wrong. I don't do it, but I wouldn't feel too guilty about it. Story 42. If it is truly victimless, including when considering indirect effects, then I would say any of them. The purpose of the law is to protect people from being negatively affected by the actions of others. So there is no sense in making something illegal if it does not negatively affect others. Story 43. Stealing from a wealthy individual. Imagine I am cleaning and I come across a pile of cash lying somewhere. It belongs to me. Story 44. Stealing from the wealthy and giving to the needy is a practice that results in no harm. The affluent have sufficient resources to recuperate, while it provides assistance to those less fortunate. Story 45. Vandalizing the street benches to remove the middle handle allows people to sleep there if they need to. Story 46. I am looking for people interested in investing $100,000 for a 10% return on investment per year. We have proven statistics and would like to collaborate on growing a fund. We aim to create a crowdfunding model with a starting point of $1,000, with no upper limit but a ceiling of $100,000. Anyone interested, please contact me. Story 47. I made a left turn on red at 2 a.m. when there was no traffic, after watching the other directions go through 2 cycles, while my side was skipped both times. The traffic light may have been malfunctioning. Story 48. This thread proves that Americans have as many restrictions as Soviet Russia. I am going to take a nap in my car. Story 49. Scanning receipts rewards members have left behind. I'm referring to programs that are free to join, allowing you to earn points each time you visit. Story 50. Online, I am moving money away from banks, insurance companies, tobacco companies, adult content companies, televangelists, rulers of Saudi Arabia, and Elon Musk to myself, which I then share with innocent children, low-income workers, job seekers, and small business owners. Story 51. Use a magnetic device that disables or destroys loud motors in cars and motorcycles, loud subwoofers and radios, loud car alarms, and nearly colorless, smoky, unsafe fireworks and firecrackers. However, it must not harm workers, job seekers, children, or their food. Story 52. Considering how many crimes corporations commit to increase stock value, I would say most seem quite victimless these days. Story 53. Stealing from large corporate stores like Walmart is not acceptable. I do not support stealing from small local businesses. Story 54. Sneaking a family member into my apartment temporarily if they absolutely needed it. I get 2 sets of 10 days per year to have guests staying overnight, including visits longer than 12 hours, because I am in a permanent supportive housing and Section 8 only building for previously homeless individuals. Therefore, the 2-week limit isn't entirely accurate in this situation. If one of my 3 people, 2 family members and 1 close friend, ever needed an emergency place to stay, I would sneak them in after exceeding the limit. My limit would be after the first warning if I get caught. If I lost this place, I would have nowhere else to go, but I would still help them afterward, including making calls to gather resources and options. The lease doesn't specify the break period's length, so I just go with 7 days to be safe. Story 55. I am fortunate enough to have never had to shoplift, but I would do it if my child went without food. In my local supermarket, baby formula is locked up in the same way as razor blades, and that has always disturbed me. Story 56. Sleeping in public. Criminalizing homelessness turns homeless individuals into criminals. Cities spend significant amounts of money designing and implementing hostile architecture. Story 57. Riding public transportation without paying a fare is something I do regularly as a homeless person, without any second thoughts. Story 58. I would consider downloading a movie I have already purchased but cannot find. For example, I own the DVD but the disc is scratched, so who is really harmed? Feels more like a loophole than a crime. What is your opinion? Story 59. I would say jaywalking. I know it's technically breaking the law, but if the street is empty and no one is hurt, it's a victimless shortcut in my opinion. I have done it many times without any real consequences, and honestly, if it saves you a few steps without harming anyone, why not? Story 60. Walking out of IKEA with 47 extra pencils in my pocket feels like I just pulled off the heist of the century. Catch me in the parking lot feeling like a character from Ocean's 11 over some 3-inch golf pencils. Story 61. I'm going completely dark here. I strongly oppose those who exploit children. In my defense, they are not individuals who will be missed. Story 62. Pirating old or outdated games is a topic of discussion. I have all the Sims 3 store content for free. Electronic Arts is a billion-dollar company. They won't lose anything of value. Additionally, the entire store is valued at around $1,000, which seems excessive. Does stealing count in this context? I don't do it, but if I ever took a candy bar or something small from a corporation like Walmart, I wouldn't feel bad at all. Story 63. Whenever I see a homeless person trying to cross one of those unwalkable 5-lane streets, I block both lanes of traffic with my car and wave them through. Story 64. Jaywalking on a clear road is frustrating. When no one is in sight, I still have to walk half a block up and half a block back to reach my destination instead of just crossing in the middle of the street. If the road is busy, that's a different situation, but when it's clear, I will continue to jaywalk. Story 65. I would probably choose something like taking a pen from the bank. They have plenty, right? It's practically an unspoken rule. Plus, no one gets hurt and the pen usually ends up getting lost anyway. It's a win-win situation. Story 66. Chewing gum in Singapore. Story 67. Where I live, it has been illegal to park a horse outside City Hall since the mid-19th century. I wouldn't feel bad about parking a horse there, even though I don't own one. Story 68. Taking as much money as possible from billionaires and spending it on freelancers, small businesses, and anyone in need of financial support to survive in this harsh world, especially if they are caring for children. What? Is there a victim in this? Billionaires are not victims. They are the ones actively harming the earth and the lives of millions, if not billions, of people. Story 69. Stealing houseplants that were going to end up in the trash anyway, especially from large retail stores, because the employees do not get paid enough to care. Story 70. Dumpster diving. I don't understand why it is illegal in most places. I don't feel bad about it at all. It affects no one and can benefit many. Story 71. To get warmed up, we explore embezzlement, tax evasion, insider trading, bribery, and illegal gambling. I know how to have a good time. Story 72. Shoplifting occurs in many cases. What will Kroger do without the $5 I would have spent on mangoes and canned beans? Would they collapse? I would genuinely be concerned if that were true. Story 73. Disclaimer. I have not done and will not do this. Insurance fraud in a way that benefits the patient. Story 74. Enforcement of crime aims to protect public safety. Therefore, victimless crimes may not truly exist. For example, if someone named Jay walks across the street and is then hit by a driver. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.